I'm going to drink a coffee before we get things started. This podcast is brought to you by Proud Hound Coffee. I see what you did there. You brought the coffee so that we could sponsor.
Yeah, I know it's going to be on camera.
We just want to welcome everybody. We're going to be doing a podcast. And this podcast we're really not sure what it's going to be. It's basically going to take form based on what your feedback is and kind of what we feel out to be interesting. So one thing that we are going to bring is a certain kind of perspective, right? So I'm going to bring a perspective of a game store owner. I'm going to talk a lot about the game store and, game kind of stuff, Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, that kind of stuff. But I also want to talk about some of the behind the scenes stuff that not everybody is privy to. So I think there's a lot of things that happen that are interesting in actually just owning a business and a lot of people stuff, stuff that has to do with people, stuff that has to do with the back end of things that not everyone gets to see.
Yeah, I'm Dan, frequenter of the Refuge, almost since the beginning, pretty close.
Yeah, pretty close to the beginning.
James and Jess started bringing me here when we all got into Magic in 2022, which is crazy. And then, I'm a business owner, a big old
business owner,
entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur. Is this an entrepreneur podcast?
This is, yeah. Yeah,
we're entrepreneur, what do you call it? Influencers.
Influencers. Yeah, we're those guys. We just need to make those 15-second clips where we say something really intense.
Yeah. That
doesn't actually make sense.
Do you have to rent a car to do that though, right? I have to rent
there's so many Teslas outside.
It's an expensive car, right?
There's Teslas outside.
If I do it with my minivan, it probably doesn't sell as well.
No. You can, that's like a Gary Vee. It's like I've owned a minivan since 2010.
I live with my parents.
It's paid off.
Yeah.
My house is paid off. I wear the same. I go to Goodwill for my clothes.
All right. So the Gary Vee angle.
Yeah, we're going Gary Vee, I think.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, you just say things as intense as possible and as quickly as possible, so the person doesn't have time to actually
think about it.
They're just like, this guy's saying it so confidently.
And he has a minivan, so.
And he's still, yeah. He has $5 million in his bank account and drives a minivan, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I own a roast coffee. And
how long have you been doing that?
Roasting coffee?
Yeah.
6 years.
6 years? Have you been in business for 6 years, or has it just been a hobby at first and then a transition?
No, this is my second business. I failed at my first one.
You failed?
I failed.
Okay. Fail fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I quit before I failed. I'll say that.
Okay. That's a good strat.
We were failing. We were going to fail.
You were going to fail, but you're like, I don't want to fail.
I was like, I have a better idea that hopefully won't fail, so I'll quit the first idea.
What was the first idea?
It was just a cafe.
Okay.
We just served other roasters' coffees.
Oh, okay. How long did that go on?
2 years.
Okay, so you had a cafe for 2 years.
Yeah.
Failed. Well, near failed.
I quit before I failed.
Uh-huh.
The failure was incoming.
Inevitable.
Yeah, we were never going to be successful.
Isn't failure always inevitable, though?
It really is.
Yeah.
This one, we couldn't do anything to stop it.
Yeah.
And yeah, thankfully I was the first person to be like, hey, we're going to fail. So I'm quitting. Everyone else that was part of it was like, okay, we'll quit too then. I was like, all right.
Okay. So you were the first to say, I'm going to quit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I quit because I had the idea for what we're doing now.
Yeah.
Which is Proud Hound. I wanted to roast. I wanted to have a cafe that was a bigger concept.
Right.
I wanted to have a business that had kind of larger goals.
Look, if I could drink Proud Hound every day, I would. The thing is, there's a Dunkin' 5 minutes from here. So Proud Hound is 20 minutes. That's 40 minutes to my commute.
That's true.
So
Jess could get on the way here.
I'm not going to ask Jess to just get me coffee on the way here I feel so pretentious to be like, oh, by the way, can you pick up my coffee?
Yeah. My assistant gets me.
Well, I don't think of Jess as my assistant. I think of her as our business manager. Yeah. Because one of the things is as we grow and stuff like that, there's so many things that we need to manage, whether it's people, the QuickBooks side of things,
Yeah.
Government agencies, all that kind of stuff. And my thought is with this business, we've been blessed to be successful so far. So this is our third year. So we're going on third year. And, I can't say, hey, it's year 3, so we're successful,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, look you had 2 years you quit before you failed.
Yeah.
We're just shy of just right after the 2-year mark, so, things could take a turn. So we don't know. But my thought is if things go, as they say, if God's willing, right, if things go well, then I expect that there'll be something else we do. You know what I mean? So the way I look at it is like the business is an umbrella, and then under that business is the store, and then maybe something else,
Yeah.
Maybe, maybe we do something like screen printing, or maybe we do something else, some other business that serves a community, but also serves our bigger business of the Alchemist Refuge. So in that kind of situation, Jess is going to be even more critical.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you need someone who can do everything.
Yeah, shout out to Jess, dude.
Yeah, just set this up.
Moment of appreciation.
We technically wouldn't be here if Jess hadn't set this up.
She set the cameras. She literally set the cameras up.
And got all the stuff together. And is going to edit this.
Yeah. I feel bad for that.
No, this is she won't even have to do anything.
Dude, this is going to be so good.
It's flawless. There's not going to be a single moment where she's going to have to jump cut anything.
So, one of the things I wanted to ask is, so there were some things that that were surprising to me when I started doing the store. I, like you, had other businesses in the past. So I had a graphic design business, graphic web design / I did this before, the card thing, but I did it online retail. So I did some other stuff, and when I started the store, this is the main thing now. And there were some moments and some things that were like, wow, I did not expect that. I was going to ask you, if you had similar experiences. For me, one of the things that was crazy was the store kind of came about on a little bit on accident, right? So I used to tell people a lot of times, hey, I would not open a game store. And the reason why is because there's too much overhead.
Yeah.
You have to pay a lease, you have to pay lights, you have to pay internet, you have to, pay employees. You have to pay all this extra stuff just to basically do what you can do at home.
On eBay.
On eBay.
Just take photos, list things.
Yeah, on other platforms, right? You could do that. So I always said, hey, you should do that. And I said, and here's the other thing. If I'm wrong, you should still do it. Because the thing about shipping online is you learn your processes.
Yeah.
You learn the things that you're going to have to do. Even when you open a store, you're going to have to know that stuff anyway. So learning it the other way is fine. What happened for us was that I wanted to do an online store. I wanted to do like I did before, the online retail, which was pretty successful at the time. I don't want employees coming over my house. It was post-COVID. So I'm like, I really don't want people coming over. I kind of want a place to do it. So I went out looking for, office space. Basically, I just wanted office space. And this actually, where we're sitting right now, was I came into this space here. This is 5 minutes from my house. It was expensive, much more expensive than I wanted to pay. I wanted to pay $200.
Just give me a room.
$300 a month for a room.
Room and a door.
Just somewhere where people could come and fill orders, And this one was too expensive, but it was so close and there was a lot of room for growth. And I'm like, hey, I'll try it. Because I talked to the landlord and they said, hey, we can do a month by month. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll try it for 1 month. And if I fail, I'll just go back to my basement, So we moved everything over here. And it was first of all, I realized after I moved everything, I did not want to move it back. Because I moved all the inventory, I moved the shelving, I moved my computers, I moved everything. And I was like, man, I don't really want to do that again. Not after a month either, that would suck. It took us 2 weeks to get it over here and then another 2 weeks to move it probably. Yeah. So the thing that was surprising was that this thing kind of took a life of its own, I realized I wasn't going to be able to pay the monthly. And I said, we need to open for retail if I'm even going to have a chance at paying this monthly bill. And so we opened for retail. And when we did that, I wasn't thinking that, oh, this is going to be another job. To me, it was oh, we're just going to have a door open. People are going to come buy stuff. And then I'm going to do the same exact job that I did before, which was the online orders, engage with my Discord community, grow that kind of thing. And it was so surprising because this whole entity was a whole nother job. It was like just like a complete, like there were two businesses at that point.
Yeah.
There were the online business and this business, which this business quickly needed a lot more attention sooner than the online stuff, and kind of quickly took over my attention. So that was super surprising for me. I wasn't expecting that. I expected life to go on normal and just me basically doing the same job I was doing, which being a streamer, selling things online. Mm-hmm. And I expected that to continue without like any interruption, but opening those doors, which I thought was just opening those doors took on a whole life of its own.
Yeah.
Which was kind of crazy. Can you think of anything like that in your?
Yes. So the thing that surprised me the most, because when I did my first business, it was me and the other people who started it. We never had an employee.
Okay.
Like we were the owners and the employees. Mm-hmm. Was people's, both customer and employees, how different people's expectations are of your business than kind of what people's expectations of Proud Hound surprise me.
Okay.
Like everyone has their own expectation.
Right.
And even if you say, this is what Proud Hound is, this is what we're doing right now, this is what we can do, people's expectations still jump over that.
Like what? Like, give me an example.
So like in the beginning, like it was me and then our head chef and the guy that I co-founded it with, David. And then we had a couple friends who had joined us and had started working before we opened the cafe. We kind of knew what to expect.
Yeah.
Like time, how much time it was going to take, how much work it was going to be. And then even with those kind of parameters set of this is what we're going to probably have to do, people still going, well, like I still want all this time off. I still want to be able to get my weekends. I still want to be like, well, I want to be making this. I want to be here now. Like this is where I want to be in life.
Yeah.
But I want to but I'm working here. Like I want this job. I want this to be my job. I want this to be what I'm doing. And it's, well, the business isn't there yet.
Right.
We have to do these other steps to get there, and it's going to be this much work and this much time.
There was like a bit of like kind of almost like a mental agreement between everybody. Okay, we understand it's going to take time.
Yeah.
We understand this. But then when you got in the thick of it, it was like, whoa, things are shifting. We want time off. We want, we don't want to devote the amount of time. And then B, some people were like, I want to be like beyond the business, basically. I want to be at this level or getting this much money. Did they have like access to the finances? So could they see like, hey?
We were, I would say, like pretty open. We are even more transparent now with employees. Mm-hmm. We do quarterly earnings and budgets reviews with employees and saying, here's how much we made, here's how much we spent, here's how much benefits cost right now, here's how much payroll we spent. Yeah. Like, this is how much it costs to upgrade this in the space so that it made jobs easier or fix things.
Do you find that to be helpful? Like, is that helpful, or does it cause I'm sure it causes problems.
It's one of those things where I've tried to figure out how to make it more impactful. Mm-hmm. I think that for some people, they look at it and they understand it and kind of grasp it. Yeah. And for other people, they still think, well, this doesn't affect me. Even though...
It's like white noise to them.
Kind of. Yeah. It's, you give them the information and they still think, they might look at it and it might go, oh, wow, okay. And then a day goes by and it's back to, well, I still want this and I still expect this. And, I'm upset that this isn't happening yet. So even though I think we've gotten better at it because we've had to stay in front of expectations and kind of stay in front of what people want and kind of being as realistic as possible with them and saying, I'm trying to respect someone's time commitment to a job. if they don't think they're going to be where they want to be, or they're eager to go do something else, I'd rather there be a time of like, okay, this isn't working.
Yeah.
Not because I don't like it or something, but because I want this now, and I don't want to wait.
I think that's like it's fair, and I think I feel like sometimes that's painted with a negative brush, like, hey, this isn't working. Like, that's a good thing to figure out.
Oh yeah, you have to. People hate it. People hate confrontation. They hate the idea of people. I think also don't like when they ask for something and you tell them the answer they didn't want to hear. Which is, it's like it's a two-edged sword of, I'll ask for something and they'll say no, like that's not what I want to do, so I'm going to leave. And I go, okay, well, we've come to a decision and figured it out. And then I think a lot of times, I feel like as an employer, not that I'm sitting here being like, oh, my employees are out to get me, but I think it's harder as an employer. People look at you and say like, well, you have this already. You kind of have all this, all these things, or they have an idea of it.
Yeah. And they're fighting for their own situation.
Yeah.
They're like, look, I need to get to a place. It can take like an adversarial role, right? Because they feel like the obstacle for me getting to where I want to get is you.
Right. And it's like, no, we're trying to work together.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm helping you try to get to where you want to go. But there's a trust thing too, right? Because like, if they don't trust you to help them to get there, then they're going to be like, you say you're helping me, but you're not helping me because how come I'm not there?
Yeah.
And I think that's where the thing that you do with the money is helpful, because then you could be like, look, you could point to that and say, well, this is why we can't do that, because we haven't grown enough.
We're not in that. We pay as much as we can, and we pay over what we can. Yeah. I know a lot of people look at it and they'll say, well, that's not a lot, or that's not enough for the lifestyle that I want to live, or like what I'm working towards. Sure. Which then again, I think it comes to a conversation of someone being very honest and saying like, this isn't working and I really need to go find something else. Right. Because I need this and you can't give that to me. Not because you don't want to, you just can't. Like the business just can't do that right now. Because everyone's in different places in life, or willing to sacrifice differently to say, no, I want to work at this business. I want to work in this industry. I'm going to get here. And I think my best chance of doing that is working for this company, whoever it is, and sacrificing a little bit, understanding that, could I go make more money working somewhere else, doing a different job? Yes, like I could go do that. Yeah. Like I could stop. You could go get a job. Yeah, I could go get a job and make way more money and have way less stress and, do all the things that I want to do all the time. Why don't you do that? I give myself like 15 minutes a day to be like, I'm going to go do that. Yeah. I usually do. If I do sit there longer than 15 minutes, then I have to like snap myself out of it. Yeah, but what is it that you're fighting for? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a reason why I want to start my own business and do my own thing. And it's because I just have it's just my vision. Yeah. I have this idea of what a coffee company, coffee roasting company, cafe could be. Right. And I want to build that. And it's really cool to do that. Yeah. I mean, it feels good. And it's going to take, I think other people, I've looked at other shops and other roasters that I look at as kind of inspiration, who are doing it really well. Yeah. I try not to get frustrated by the fact that they've made it to where I'm trying to go. Because I'll look at somebody and be like, I'm not that much, our business isn't that much, younger than theirs. Yeah. But then I'll look at where they're at geographically, or where they're at as owners, and I'll be like, oh, they're in their mid to late 40s. Yeah. They've lived and done things and built these connections longer than I have. So it does just, their business might be younger, but they've, gone and done so many other things and built these networks that they've been working on for 20 years. And I just skipped some of those steps and just was like, I'll just start it. Right. So you have to, and I think that's a really like good way to look at it and be like, because you can't help but to compare yourself. And it's hard. And be like, oh, I'm looking at this business, or I'm looking at this person. They're like further along than me, or they're,
And I think a little bit of that's good for like understanding like where you are in the context. But it always comes down to like thinking about that stuff will, if you focus on that, it will stop you from just doing the stuff. Cause like there's so much we can do to just get to our goals and set. Like the thing is you have to set the goals and then work toward those goals. And if your goal is smaller than where they're at, then that's just, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's not, and I think it's cool that you give reasons for that and say, oh, these people, you know, they have years on me as far as experience. They have, you know, connections. Maybe they started with more money, you know,
Yeah.
maybe, you know, there's a lot of different things that you can do. It's funny when you're talking about the different expectations and stuff and where the business is and people wanting different things. One of my first fights in business, it wasn't this business, it was a different one, was about that. And it was so crazy because I was going with one thought, like I just thought it was going to be this certain way. And I had a partner. So one of my, the online retail business that I had was called Legit MTG. It was a Magic the Gathering business. And I had a partner. I'm not going to say his name because, you know, it's not cool to do that. And no shade to this guy. I like this guy a lot, you know. We were talking, it was like the night before we went to a big show. We were going to do a big show called Origins, where you go and set up a booth, you sell your cards, you buy cards. It was going to be like the big outing for us, one of the first big outings. And I remember we were talking while we were getting the inventory ready. We were gathering stuff for the cases, and we were just talking, and I was kind of excited, you know, talking about the future. And we were talking about who's going to quit their job first, right? He was in a certain job, and I was in IT. So I made pretty good money in IT. Like it was more than what he was making. And so I was like, well, you should quit your job first because the business will be able to cover your salary faster than it will be able to cover my salary. Okay. And he said, he looked at me and he was like, what do you mean? And I said, well, the business is going to be able to cover your salary first because, you know, and he's like, okay, so how do you think this is going to work? And I'm like, well, you would quit your job. We would cover your salary. And then you would work on the business until I could quit my job. And then you would cover my salary. And then he goes, well, why would you get paid more than me in the business? You know? And I was like, well, because I make more than you now, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's just this conversation just got gross, right? Because then it was like this whole measurement thing. And then he's like, well, in the business, we're equals. You know what I mean? Even though like, I didn't feel that we were equals in the business, but like, that's clear from my perspective. And there were some other reasons for that. It just wasn't because I'm a guy and he's a guy. It was because I was bringing an audience with me because I had an audience from writing and stuff like that. And so I was feeling like, you know, like we were kind of offset, and then we were offset professionally as well. So it was like, to me, the offset was clear. And then it was just like, well, obviously I'm not going to take a pay cut. You know, I'm not going to quit IT, take a pay cut to work here. And then he's like, well, then just raise me to what you're making in IT. And I'm like, yeah, but then the business needs to be like, I can't quit my job like forever then because you need to make an IT salary before like I can quit, which to me, it was just a weird, like those expectations. And looking back on it, it was a fair question from him. And it was I could see where he was coming from. You know what I mean? But at the time I was like, whoa, it came out of nowhere. We started to have a fight. And it's funny because we were about to go do this show. And then I was like, look, let's put this on hold. We'll talk about it when we get back. We'll figure it out. It's not going to, you know, I'm flexible. We can figure it out. I don't have to quit, you know, like there's a lot of things we could do. So we just kind of put it on hold. But yeah, just a good example of like when you have people involved and partners and stuff like that, it's like the expectations and where the business is and where it's going to go and what things are, you know what I mean? Because when I looked at it, I was like, there's no way this business is going to have 2 IT salaries working for it. It's just not it's not functionally going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of crazy.
Yeah. It's all those conversations have to happen at some point. it's always better to have them way in advance, but people don't think about it because, it's the kind of honeymoon phase of things where it's like everyone's just excited and just, even when people start that job, it's exciting. It's a new job. I applied here and I wanted to work here.
Yeah.
So everything is new and fresh and cool. And then you start doing it and you realize, oh, in my opinion, every job in the world is repetitive. You're going to be doing the same thing. And that's usually, I think, a good thing because it means you learn it really well. You get really good at it. You kind of become an expert. And then at that point, if you're doing it so well, the business is probably growing because you're getting really good at what you're doing. The business grows, the ceiling goes up, new opportunities happen, the business expands in some way or add something to it that it didn't have. The people below you or the people who are new coming in learn from you, but a lot of people don't, I said this recently to an employee, I was like, we were talking about the solar or something, I think, because we have solar on our building. We just invested in it early. There was like some grants and an installation like group that was happening in our neighborhood. And I was like, that was like a 15-year investment. And they just looked at me and said, that's insane. What do you mean it's a 15-year investment? I was like, we don't make our
money back until
in 15 years we'll probably make our money back. It could happen sooner, but like that's the projection. And you go, 15 years? Like they just, people, I think that's part of an issue that I see is people want and expect things to happen really quickly. And don't understand that for something really, really good to be built, it can happen fast. You can get either lucky or just kind of
something like solar is not going to happen fast because it's extrapolated over time based on the build,
but then I talk about the new build out that we're doing. We're adding onto our building. And I said, that could take 5 to 10 years to pay off. For the business to actually make money from it, where it's not, the business isn't paying off the loans and or paying back who we borrowed our money from and paying all the interest probably. We can really be aggressive and try and go quick on it and find ways to expand and use it so we're making more money. But that's, that could take 3 to 5 years. And then even a short amount of time of that, people don't realize like, oh, I need to invest it's better definitely to find it early. And find, like, have those. I'm finding like when I need to do my interviews, I need to kind of be asking like, what are your expectations and just in general in your life and what you're kind of like hoping for in the next 5 years. And a lot of people, if they kind of go, I don't know, I usually go, well, then, I don't, I don't mind that people work for me for 6 months to a year. It's kind of frustrating because
every time someone new comes on, you have to train them.
You
have to do all this paperwork. You have to do all this stuff.
There's a lot of disruption that people don't think about.
Also, the just one person interacting with another person.
The team changes all the time.
Team change. And like the fact that you don't have that stability. So I don't blame you to have that in the interview, to have that question like, hey, what? And if they're like iffy, then it's not going to be the same. But the trouble is like when you have somebody who does have a clear vision,
that can also be a problem.
It's also like, whoa, like, okay, if you don't fit that, then,
but it's that's, I would almost rather someone be like, this is my, here's what I'm working. This is what I want. And me going, just a heads up, that's not going to happen. As quickly as you would want it, or whatever your expectations
and then
are.
They could just be like, thank you for your time.
Or I could say, is there a compromise? Because I do want you to work here. People just, I don't know if you've experienced that, but people's expectations of how fast something's going to happen. And then when you're honest with them, a lot, like I've had times when people go, okay, and they either go, I'm going to go I need to leave. And I go, sure. Well, or people who say, okay, I understand. And then 2 weeks go by and they come back and they ask me the same question. And I go, you understand that nothing has changed at all from the first conversation. Nothing.
I'm in a weird spot because we're young. Right. We're young, and a lot of people who work here are young. And the business is not topped out. And so the weird thing about this business is you can push a lot of money through this business. And with the team we have, we could push double, triple what we're doing. in business if we had the business, right? If we had the funds and we had the business, we could do that. So what I've been doing with people is I'm super aggressive with getting them where they want to go. And like, I advocate for them. So when they come, I say, hey, look, we're going to start you low. Okay. If things start working out, then we'll set a plan. We'll say, you tell me, where do you want to be? What do you want to make? Okay. When you tell me that, I'm going to expect that you do something to help us make that, because there's a lot of things we can do.
Yeah.
And if we want to do some of that stuff, if you want to stream, if you want to go through collections and pull stuff out, if you want to, open another side of our business, whether it's Yu-Gi-Oh or do this kind of thing. Because right now we focus on Magic, Pokemon, Lorcana. If you want to be the Star Wars Unlimited guy and really like help us to push numbers in Star Wars Unlimited, great. But there has to be some kind of thing that you're going to do to get that number you want. So if you want something, and I always try to be like, every time we meet, how are things going? How are you feeling? How are we doing on your goals? Like, because I feel like a lot of people won't ask. They won't advocate for themselves until it's already past the point.
Yeah.
When they're like feeling the pain point, that's when they ask. And the trouble is, if you wait till that point, then, and you can't do anything for them, then it's going to suck, right? But if I'm ahead of time being like, where are you at? How are you feeling? And monitoring that, then I can be ahead of that. And I could be like, okay, we need to get you to this by this point. Well, then what we need to see is we need to see sales, or we need to see this. Because for me, like my whole outlook for this first X amount of time is build the business and build the team. And so what that means is like, you can have whatever you want, but we have to earn it. And I'm not going to take more. So like, if we earn a bunch more, my goal is not to take more. My goal is to give that to the people who made it happen. Right. So, and what I get in return, is that the business has grown and the business is bigger. We have a bigger footprint. Now, if that person leaves, then they've left me with a bigger footprint. Yeah. Now I could put someone else in there at their current rate, which was something they earned and fought for, and we can continue ideally. Now, this might be the wrong way to think. I don't know, because I'm new to this stuff. Yeah. But then we can continue at that bigger footprint, and we can push that footprint forward, And so that's kind of like, it's been a different conversation for us because we're growing, because we hire young, and because the business has been successful. Now, let's say we stalled out this year. Okay, so we're at a certain point last year, and what I've done, I think I've made a mistake, but what I've done is I've put the operating costs to the size of last year. So meaning I've hired to that size, or I'm hiring to that size. I'm, expanding out expenditures to that size, whether it be buying a sorting machine, things, bills that I'm gonna have to pay. I'm counting on that number from last year. Yeah. Now, if we do less than last year, we're gonna feel the pinch, right? Because I've expanded the business to that. My hope is that we won't do less. We'll do the same amount or more. Yeah. And that the business won't feel the pinch, and that we'll be able to push. So that's kind of where my mindset has been, and how I've been handling staffing and goals for the staff. Because at the end, I want everyone to be happy who's working here. I want them to be, feeling fulfilled, getting the things that they need for their life. And I feel like that just makes everything better. Now, there are some people who I feel like, when they look at a job, they look at it in a transactional way. You know what I mean? Where it's like, look, I come here, I punch the clock for you, you give me my paycheck. I'm not interested in that. Like, I'm not interested in that kind of relationship. If you come here, I'm going to try to take care of you the best that I can. And we're going to become a team. We're going to build something. We're building something really cool. And I'm not looking for transactional situations. That's so easy to find that's not anything special to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I think that's huge. Like, that's a good way to put it. I've never thought about it that way. Because, when we talk about hiring people, we say, like, I don't want someone who just wants a paycheck. And it's like, well, paycheck, a lot of people, it is what they want.
They need it.
Because you need a paycheck.
You need a paycheck.
Like, if you're going to do work, you need to be paid for it so that you can pay your bills and buy groceries and, save for the future of what you want your life to be.
Something cool you want to do. Yeah. You want to go to the orchestra or go out to eat.
But it's important. But I do like the idea of saying, not wanting a transactional relationship, because that's how our cafe is we're not trying, when someone comes in, for them to walk up to the counter and feel like that was just a transaction.
Right.
When they leave, we want them to have this feeling of, I was I didn't need anything the whole time I was there. Everything was taken care of. The space was clean. My food was exactly what I expected, if not better. The service, they got me things I didn't even think I needed before I needed it. It felt like everyone was predicting what I was looking for or thinking about, because for a restaurant and a cafe, especially one like us where we don't wait on people. So it can feel very transactional because you wait in line, you order your food, you go sit down, we bring it out. You have to do all these other little things that, yes, it like takes time and takes a lot of effort, but not really. You don't have that waitress feeling of, oh, this person is just focused on my table and everything that we need. We have the staff where it's like, we're just going around, we're cleaning, we're taking dishes up and down, we're restocking things, we're grabbing things for people. We're seeing, they're looking around, walking up to it and saying like, hey, notice are you looking for something? What do you need?
Right.
It's awesome. We're getting to a point on weekends where like we run out of tables. So then we have to figure out like...
That's awesome. Well, that's where the build out comes in.
Right, that's where our build out's coming. So if we're running out of tables, we have to figure out like, how are we going to get these people seated? Or like, where can we kind of shuffle things around? We're just having to like problem solve. Yeah. And
I've heard this said in like the hospitality business, and I don't know, and I was going to ask you, do you think it's like this? So I don't remember who was saying it, but it impressed something on me. And I think about it when I'm thinking about the store and like people. They said, I want our business to be invisible in the sense that the people don't have to think about things. Like they don't have to think about, is the table clean? They don't have to think all they have to think about is they're there to enjoy their meal or whatever it was. And all they have to think about is the other stuff. Yeah. The reason they've come, they don't have to think that there was no napkins here. They don't have to think that, they got charged the wrong amount. They don't have to. So this person who was speaking was talking about like their experience is frictionless. It's invisible. You don't feel any weight as a customer or any responsibility. They could just come, enjoy their time, and the actual experience didn't take away from the time at all. You didn't have to think about, and that's what sounds like what you're describing in a sense, where like they can rely on like good food, they can rely on things being filled, the place being clean, the place being comfortable, there isn't broken chairs or like other stuff that they're like, oh wait, takes them out of it's kind of like in the movies, like when they break the fourth wall, right? If you're a customer and you're like somewhere and then like something happens and it puts you out of your experience, right? It's like, oh wait, we're having a discussion about this, or this is, they're not wanting to really interact a lot with your people helping them. Probably, they probably want to interact with their friends who came to meet them.
Yeah, which is like why we did our system the way it is it's like this really casual where you can you can't make the experience like what you want exactly, because we have limitations and our space can only do a certain thing. Like we're not limited to an infinite food hospitality experience, right? But you can show up and it's like, oh, I'm meeting a friend that I haven't seen in a year. Yeah, it's like you can just you're having a conversation. You don't have to think about like what you're saying is. Yeah, that's the goal. The goal is someone shows up and they go, I spent $20, and then they don't even have to think about the fact. I want people to forget how much they spent. They didn't like look at the bill and go, I spent $90. I want people to just come in and be like, wow, that's awesome. Yeah. And then they'll just be like, I'll go back. Right. The more that people return, the more I know like, oh, this isn't about the fact that we're priced well. Yeah. Because there's cheaper spots than us. If that's what you care about, that probably they're not as good as us, but they're, it's fine.
Well, no other place is as good as you guys, right?
I mean, I don't think so. I don't think.
I'm a little bit biased, but no.
I think we're the best at what we do, but that's just me.
I think pricing is like a little bit, I think that's one thing that like I learned early, and I always thought like, oh, you have to be the cheapest to be competitive in business. The
best that someone's, they're going to think of you first.
What I've learned is that you don't really have to be the cheapest price, and that, people will pay for something that they really enjoy or they pay for, and they're happy to do it. It's not an adversarial thing where like, they're mad because they have to pay more or something. Now, there are some people who are mad because they have to pay more. But in the end, if your business is about meeting the needs of the people who are not going to be upset about paying more, then, and you've crafted your business that way, then, not saying like anything about the pricing at Proud Hound. I've had my experience at Proud Hound is like what you said. I don't even know how much things cost at Proud Hound.
Yeah.
I just go there. I want that chicken sandwich with the bacon and this, you know,
the quark and the coffee and the.
I want that, and those smashed potatoes. You know, that's what I want when I go there. That's what I get. You know, or the standard breakfast sandwich. You know, that's what I go for. I don't know what those things cost. You could raise the price by $2 on each of those things, and I wouldn't even know the difference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I'm not worried about what am I paying for that sandwich? And it's not because I'm wealthy. It's because when I'm going somewhere out to eat, I'm expecting that I'm going to pay more than if I made the food at home.
Yeah.
You know, and so like my whole thought process is, if I want to save money, then I'll make the food at home. If I want to go out and eat, then I'll go out to eat and pay whatever the asking price is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, if I rang up my card and it was like $59 or something for a sandwich, I might at that point be like, whoa, wait a second. You know, that was a lot. You know, that seemed like a lot for that sandwich, you know, but if it's 55, you know.
Yeah. No. You just gotta make it under the whole number.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to find those numbers that work well psychologically.
Yeah. I don't know. That's kind of been the thing that's like surprised me the most, and I guess is like where my mindset is now, is overcoming those things.
Yeah.
And then figuring out like how to either get ahead of them or just kind of like answer those questions that, you know, customers have or employees have before they're even asked, and learning how to like set the boundaries of this is what Proud Hound is right now and what we can do and where we're going, so that it doesn't come to, you know, well, I'm mad because, you know, I am thinking about how much I spent because I didn't like it for this reason. And it wasn't a quality thing.
Well,
it was
you start to like, it's like in a relationship, right?
Yeah.
Like if things are going good in a relationship, people can have flaws and everything is cool. As soon as things start going bad in the relationship, that's when everyone starts to notice the flaws, right? It's like, well, you always snore. You always, you know, it's the same thing in like a hospitality business, I think, where it's like, as soon as like things turn a little bit like not quite right, then people start looking, well, how much are those things? And what, you know, what are they, and why do they need to, you
That's
know?
where all my 1-star reviews come from.
Oh,
it's like
we will do an episode on 1-star reviews.
They get, you know, one little thing, maybe they're already having a bad day and one little thing goes wrong. And it wasn't even about the food or the coffee or the space. You know, it could just be an interaction, or like they wanted something and it's just like, we don't do that, or like we can't do that, or it's just like, you know.
We should read our 1-star reviews. Do you think that would be too much?
That would be fun.
I think it'd be fun.
We can block it out. I mean, people can go.
We don't
look.
say the name, right?
People, no, but people can, you know, share. If we,
I think it would be fun to read it, and then we could talk about it. We could actually judge.
There was a coffee roaster, one of the biggest ones, and then one of the bigger ones in the U.S. That's like a specialty roaster.
Yeah.
They just seemed to have infinite money because they had a band make an EP, a hardcore metal EP, based on their 1-star Yelp reviews. I looked at it and I was like, that's insane that you spent that much money.
So insane.
But they did. It was like
cool.
It's cool.
It's really
If I had
cool.
had the money, I would have done it, I guess. But yeah, we can do a 1-star review episode.
We could do a 1-star review episode. I think that'd be fun. I'll wrap this episode with the thing that surprised me most, which was how fast we grew.
That's a good surprise you most.
It was crazy. I didn't expect it. And you know what's funny? My dad saw it before anybody.
Really?
Like, when I was starting the business, me and my dad have a contentious relationship. A little bit, you know, we're working on it. It's getting better. But at the time we were kind of at odds, and I told him about it. Hey, I'm starting this business, blah, blah. And he goes, how do you think it'll do? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to do. It's definitely a big step. He goes, I think it'll do a lot better than you expect. And I was like, oh, wow, that's, you know, reassuring,
yeah.
You know? And yeah, it has done, it's already beyond like what I've expected.
Yeah.
And it's growing. Now it's like to me to steward it, you know, to steward it well. And, you know, I'm so grateful for everybody, the community, and everybody who's been the team who's helped build it, you know? So, yeah.
No, that's cool. That's why I'm here.
Welcome in, Dan.
Yeah.
That's why you're here.
Yeah. That's why The audience.
The audience. How many people do you think listen? 5, 6?
So James, Lee, Jess, Jamie. That's 4.
I think it's enough.
I do a podcast just for them. I could
Jess has to listen because she has to edit.
Yeah. Let's see. Both Jake and Jacob.
Okay.
Alvin.
You think they'll listen to this whole thing?
No, they'll probably get like 5-10 minutes in.
Yeah, I don't think they're at this point in the podcast.
No.
They can't be here.
But we'll find out.
If you listen to
here's the thing.
please
I'll
leave a
name a bunch of
message.
people that I think will listen.
Uh-huh.
And if they never say anything, if they say, I listened to your podcast, and then I go, oh, what did you think of like the ending?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, it was cool. And they don't say like, I got a shout out.
Yeah.
Then I know that they didn't listen.
Oh man. I don't want to do shout outs because that's really, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
if
yeah.
I shout one person out and then, you know.
Well, here's the thing. Give us $5 a month. We'll shout you
We're already
out.
started a Patreon? Dude, this podcast, I don't even know if we're going to do a second episode. This has been podcast episode 1.
No name.
No name or anything like that. I think it was, it might be bad. The podcast might be bad for episode 1.
It could just be like an hour of me complaining. I don't think I complained, but I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
I think
we
I
had
was
a
just
conversation.
we had a conversation.
And if you like conversations like that, let us know. If you don't like it, let us know too. And that's where we might come up with what the employees come up with. This is just not working, Because we want to just sit and have a conversation. And if you don't like that, maybe it won't work. But anyways, is there anything?
We'll just upload it to YouTube every week, even if people don't like it. Just put it in the void.
Just
another
see what happens.
YouTube video that gets loaded up to the.
I've listened to worse audio.
Listen to pretty bad things.
Yeah.
Pretty trash stuff.
Yeah, so I think there's an audience out there. Is there anything you want to tell the viewers before we take off?
No. Like, share, subscribe.
If you're in the area, check out Proud Hound.
And Alchemist Refuge. Buy all your singles here. They have a website. Aether Drift came out.
Well, now you aged it.
Oh, Jess, you gotta edit this quick.